Welcome to Permission to Thrive. I'm your host, Suzi Lula. As a spiritual therapist for over 20 years, I have the honor and privilege of ushering women and mothers just like you on a journey from simply surviving to powerfully thriving. I also have the honor of raising our son, Will, who is now a young adult, with my longtime partner, Jamie, so I'm right there on the journey with you. Consider this your personal sanctuary, your space to meet your heart, embrace your messy, and come home to your most authentic, extraordinary self. My hope is that you leave resourced and inspired because you are here to shine. Welcome to Permission to Thrive. I'm so happy to introduce you all to my friend and colleague, Melody Pomerati. Melody is an award-winning author and empowerment coach and the founder of the Girl Life Academy. As the mom of twin girls, she is passionate about empowering girls and women to access their superpowers and reach their full potential. Melody's purpose-led business trains women to become girl empowerment coaches and run impactful and profitable businesses centered around empowering girls. She has successfully trained over 200 girl life coaches across the globe who are changing the world one girl at a time, while earning unapologetically for their valuable work. We had the most amazing conversation. We spoke about what gets in the way of our girls thriving in the world and how you can remother yourself so that you can thrive in the world. We also spoke about how we can bring our girls and our boys together to empower each other and to really change the next generation on the planet. So I'm so happy to have you all listen in to this really inspiring conversation. So excited to introduce you to all my thrivers, as I call them. So I want to introduce you all to Melody. Melody is an award-winning author and empowerment coach. You are the founder of the Girl Life Academy. You are the mom of twin girls, and that's what's helped you to become passionate about empowering girls and women to access your superpowers and reach their full potential. So you are in this world of empowering women, empowering girls, and that is what I just feel. So I have so much respect for you. You know, as the mom of a boy, I just love anyone who is assisting our younger generation to thrive. So welcome. I love the work that you do. I can't wait to dive in. And on that note, so welcome everyone to Permission to Thrive. I'm your host, Suzi Lula, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend and colleague and Girl Life founder and mentor, Melody Pomerati. So welcome, Melody.
Thank you, Suzi. It's such an honor to be here. Congratulations on this amazing podcast. And anytime I get to spend with you is welcome. So I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. Ditto. I feel the same way about you. I'm just going to ask you, what is your definition of thriving, of empowerment? What is your definition?
I love the question, and I love that you call your community the Thrivers. I think there's just such a beautiful energy associated with that. For me to thrive, I think it's twofold. I mean, the first thing is, this is everything that I believe in, is connecting to that inner power source that exists within each of us. Just knowing and claiming our power is probably one of the most important things that we could do. And I'm sure we'll go into that more today, but the most trusted resource lives within us. And when we can fully understand that and harness the power of that, there's nothing we can't do. So that's when we thrive. And then the other thing that really just comes up for me is like, I was asking myself this question as you had prepared me, and you had said that we would be talking about what it means to thrive. And I thought for myself, the prerequisite to thriving for me is just living in a state of peace, peace in my mind, peace in my body, peace in my heart. And so for me, thriving also means that I am at peace with myself.
I love that so much. And I think that's why I resonate with you so much, because my definition of thriving is to have an inner sense of well being in the
Love that.
midst of what's going on around us. And so the first words out of your mouth were about tapping into the inner and the power that we all have within us in a culture, that teaches us to look externally. So we're both really similarly seeking to assist individuals to know that really truly you do have a superpower within you. So I love your definition, and I'm interested, what led you to do this work? What led you to be passionate not only about finding this within yourself, but assisting both women and girls to find this within themselves?
I think that's a beautiful question. I think when we access something for ourselves, like when we go through a challenge and come out on the other side, we can't help but want to scream it off of the rooftops. I think that's one of the gifts that we bring as women. We want to share, whether it's a lipstick color or a book we read or a podcast we're listening to. We're like, you have to hear about this. And so I had my own journey where I struggled. Like I struggled with a lot of anxiety as a young girl. I didn't know it was anxiety because it manifested in the form of stomach aches. And I was always in pain. And every morning I would wake up and it was the same. Everything I ate, going to school was a problem. And my mom would just take me from doctor to doctor to try to figure out what was going on with me. And everyone would give me this clean bill of health and say, Melody's completely healthy and fine. And it just left us wondering what is going on. And it wasn't until, you learn to manage the pain, but it wasn't until sitting in a Psych 101 class at York University in Toronto, first year university, and learning about the mind body connection and how we are such powerful creators in our own lives. And in that moment, the more I learned about this connection between our minds and our bodies, the more I realized, my goodness, like what's going on with me is actually, I can give it a name. I have anxiety. I am living with anxiety. And that is turning out to be what the stomach pain is all about. And if I am able to make myself sick, then I'm also able to make myself well. And that's when I stepped into the world of empowerment and human potential and understanding that there are so many inner tools that live within each of us. And when we can access them, the power of the universe is at our fingertips. And that's when I slowly started planting seeds. And then when I had my daughters, it was just another opportunity for me to go deeper. I looked in the mirror and I was like, is this the woman who is going to empower her girls? Like, when I see my reflection in the mirror, like, am I pleased? Do I have issues with myself? And all of that deep inner work and understanding, that power and wanting to share it with my girls, wanting to share it with the world, really started my mission of women empowering girls. And after years of working with women as a life coach, it became very clear to me that if we're going to change this narrative, like you hear from so many women, I should have done this, I wish I had done that, but I'm not strong enough, I'm not capable enough, and all of this. And I was like, where does this begin and how do we change it? And for me, the natural answer, the natural response from my own inner being was, let's do something about this and let's start with the girls.
Wow. Well, I just love everything that you're saying. I think everyone's going to relate to you. One of the things you said that I think is so profound, you said, if I am making myself sick, I can make myself well. And that is certainly something to shout from the mountaintops to anyone listening right now. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a physical illness, but like you're saying, anxiety, it could be emotional, mental health, mental illness. If you're struggling, if you're going through a challenge right now, if you're going through this challenge, you can also make yourself well. And that is your mission. And what this podcast is all about is finding within how we can make ourselves well. I love the word well being. It
Mhm.
means wealth, and wealth means well being. And
Yes.
so to really unlock and take ownership, especially as girls, as women, to take ownership that we have the power within us to make ourselves well, to cultivate a sense of well being and wealth within whatever is going on, I think is so powerful. You said so many other things. I really love, well, I love that you work with girls. And it's interesting that you have had your own journey with anxiety. And I certainly believe that anxiety is so on the rise, both with women, with girls, with boys. I've raised a boy, and I know there's tremendous unseen anxiety with boys. So we share this passion. I'm interested in your journey with anxiety and how it's led you. What do you see in girls? What would you say um, either has them fraught with anxiety or challenges girls to thrive, to give themselves permission to thrive?
It's a really good question. There's so much, but specifically what I'm noticing is that girls are looking, and boys, but we're talking about girls right now, looking for that outside validation. And there's just so much that sets them up to seek that outer validation, whether it's social media or, like the silliest things that are happening in some schools where there are lists about this girl would be the most XYZ, this girl would be, it's just craziness. And especially for girls, we're feeling this. And I always say it's them raising the volume, turning up the volume on what the world is telling them to be, who the world is telling them to be, what the world is telling them they should say, they should do, what activities they should take part in. It's just so the list is endless, but what we want is for them to turn the volume up on their own inner knowing. And when we can get them to do that, that's where the power comes in. No more of the shoulds, right? Like I should be this way, but more of the who do I want to be? How do I want to operate in the world? So I think what's taking our girls down is just needing others to see them and to acknowledge them and validate them, and not realizing that that first validation and acknowledgement has to come from the girl herself for herself.
Mm, I love what you're saying, and I love that you're speaking about the power of a girl finding her own inner power in a group. Because
Mm,
I think that that's very similar to women and mothers. I know for myself, when my son was young, I felt very alone as a mother,
yes.
and I was really hungry for a lifeline and a group. And I remember my first group of mom friends, there were three others, and there were four of us. And we would literally just go to a park and sit under a tree. And that was literally that was my lifeline for the week. It was Sunday mornings. And so I love that you're doing this work in community with girls. I think that what you're saying is very powerful. The power of social media to us as women and grown adults is powerful enough. And imagine being a young girl to be inundated with that. And I would imagine what you find also in your work are just the things outside of social media, like a girl in a classroom, I'm thinking. And I've heard you say this, that by fourth grade, by the age of 9 years old, there's something that's happening with our girls where they're not raising their hands as much in a classroom as a boy feels confident to raise his hand in a classroom. And I've thought about that a lot because I think that boys, young girls, boys are more gregarious. Boys are just, energizer bunnies,
Right.
And so I think that part of it is just developmental, that boys are more external. Often, I know I'm generalizing, often girls are more internal. They're taught be a nice girl, be a good girl, be quiet, be polite. I
Yes.
know I was taught all of those things, and I'm trying to be a good girl, and then I'm keeping my mouth closed, and then my light is dimming. So
And
I would love for you to speak to that and anything that you see around that for anyone listening, to be able to really equip your young girls to maybe even become aware that this is happening, and then equip them. What would a mom do with her young girl right now?
yeah, another amazing question, Susie. So yes, a girl's self-confidence peaks at age 9. It's the sad statistic. And I think that like you hit the nail on the head when you said we are asked to be good girls. That's what's happening. We don't even realize as mothers when we give that message, like, be a good girl, be a good girl. What does that mean? Are we backing it up with examples and definitions? Usually we're not. And so the girl, our girl, is left coming to her own conclusions about what it means to be a good girl. And I remember polling our Facebook community on this. Like, what did it mean to you when your parents told you to be a good girl? They would say it meant don't use your voice. It meant be seen and not heard. It meant act like a lady, sit like a lady, dress like a lady. So much of this messaging coming at us that we just don't know what to do with. We don't know how to disseminate it. And so back to your question, what could a mom do right now? Well, let's not ask our girls to be good. Let's instead ask them to be powerful, is something that I really, that's another thing I'd like to scream off of the mountaintops. It's like, there's too much attached to being a good girl. Let's instead invite our girls to tap into their own inner power, that inner voice of knowing that we call intuition, to guide them, to be the life force that leads them through this thing we called life, where it's not always easy, right? But if we've always got access to our intuition, if we teach our kids about that voice, that inner knowing, my goodness, the things that they can make it through, the resilience they can develop. Like, it's something I have said to my daughters, and I continue to say when they come to me for the answers, I have to catch myself, right? Because it's so easy as a mother. We want to fix it. We want to give them all the answers. We want to make life so much easier for them, right? But we need to take a step back. And so the question is, honey, what is your intuition telling you, right? Like, what we're talking to a younger girl, what's that inner voice of knowing? Like, that voice that's always talking to you. What is she saying to you? And really, this is how we create powerful girls, by reminding them that the power is within them. It's not outside of them. It's always an inside job.
Yeah. I love these 2 points. I want to talk about each one of them for a moment. They're really powerful. One point I'm hearing you say is to use specific examples in your home, like look for specifics. I think that's genius. And the other thing that you're saying is to catch ourselves, to teach ourselves as the parent, as the adult, not to go to the fix it,
Right.
but to really step back and allow your daughter to have that inner experience. Oh, I have an intuition. I have a power. So I want to speak to each one of those because I think they're very powerful. The first one about using specifics, when you said that, and I just shared this on a previous podcast, but I think it bears repeating. So when you say specifics, I get really excited because I think that, oh, well, that means that as an adult, I too get to grow out of the good girl that I was taught to be and grow into the powerful woman that I'm meant to be. So I think of when Will was young, and we didn't do social media with him. He didn't watch very much media at all. And that was a big thing
Sure.
because we were part of like the only ones or very few, that was a thing. And I didn't want him to feel stigmatized. He's living in a world of social media and we were making, our own choices. And so I share this example because for me as a mom, what happened was, when we would have play dates come over or he would go to play dates and there was navigating this conversation about media.
Sure.
And I can remember feeling very uncomfortable myself
Right.
in wanting to talk about this with another mom. I can remember times that I would call, another mom and I'd be really nervous because the good girl in me who would want to be accepted by another mom, who would not want to feel like, what is she doing? Like, I wanted to belong. I wanted to be that good girl. I wanted to be nice. I didn't want to cause conflict. I didn't want to be that person. And here I am wanting to raise my son in a particular way. And what I found with every phone call was on the other end, the mom was going, "Oh my God, thank you so much for talking about social media. Like, I don't want that happening on a play date either." But I got so much connection and intimacy and deepening by
Mm.
finding my own voice and breaking out of my own good girl, modeling that I had been entrenched in for sure. So I love that you're talking about specifics. I share all of that to say there are probably 10, 20 ways in a day, in a week, that as an adult, we can find these specifics to grow ourselves
Mm.
into the
Mhm.
powerful woman that will then, because it's very challenging to be saying to our kids, you're inwardly empowered when we're feeling inwardly threatened. So we have to move through that ourselves and
Yes.
alongside of our girls, of our kids. And I love what you're saying about using specifics. I would love for you thrivers listening, please email us, DM us, please share some of the specifics that you begin to find this week. Use that as an assignment. Look for
Mm.
specific ways this week that you can grow into your own superpower and then
Yes.
pass that along. Anything you want to share about that before? Because your other example is so good too.
Well, this just kind of, I don't know if this takes us onto a tangent, but it bears sharing. Like you shared your example of how you're empowering yourself, stepping into your own power. And that's like the greatest gift we wish to give to our children, right? It's the gift you gave to Will. It's the gift that I strive to give to my girls or the girls that I serve. But at the end of the day, like the greatest gift that we have to give our next generation is the gift of our example. So if we are encouraging girls to step into their power and we're not doing it, well, guess what? It's not going to happen because so often it's not what's taught, it's what's caught. It's what they're witnessing us do and not do that is hanging out in their subconscious minds, and they are following our cues of what it is to be a girl or a woman walking in this world. So it's something that I speak on a lot. It's the topic of my book, Empowered Women, Empower Girls. So we must first and foremost embody that which we are trying to bring to the girls. So whether it's like, I use this example often. If I'm looking in the mirror, and believe me, I have caught myself doing this. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like looking at my gray hairs. And I'm like, oh my goodness, another gray hair, another wrinkle, or I don't like the way my body looks, whatever it may be. They're hearing us. They're hearing us. They are taking that in. And is that what we want to share with them?
Yeah.
And so in strengthening our own relationship with ourselves and doing that deep inner work for ourselves, that is the gift that we give to our children.
Exactly. And that's what I find so exciting because I want everyone to hear that you don't need to be perfect. Your children observing you growing
Yes.
is so important. When Will, I was always very honest and am very honest and authentic with him. So I wasn't shy about saying, mommy's really nervous about calling Miss Jane right now. And
Right.
mommy's gonna do it anyway.
Right.
I showed him my vulnerability, again, tangent, but raising a boy. And I wanted my son to stay connected to his vulnerability and all the things, his emotional sensitivities. So I would share with him my vulnerabilities just as a way of showing him, like, okay, I'm really nervous, but here I am, I'm calling anyway. And so I hope that everyone listening is hearing that, and I can remember moments of like wanting to say, oh my God, my stomach's sticking out, and I can remember moments of hearing it in my mind and catching myself. I don't want to say that in front of my son because he's going to one day. So I want everyone to hear that this is not about being perfect, but it is
Never.
certainly an opportunity to really grow in your own empowerment. And just as an aside, I have to say, so many synchronicities with us. Your book, Empowering Women, Empowering Girls, and my book, Thriving Mothers Raising Thriving Children.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think we discussed this the first time we met. Like, what are the chances of that, right? Like, we are literally saying the same thing in different ways.
Yeah, which is
It's
why
so
I knew
beautiful.
everyone would love you.
Aw.
So, Melody, I know I said I was going to ask you about two things, and I'm not remembering the second thing right now, so I might come back to it. But there's another thing that you and I talk about that I would just love to share with all the thrivers out there, which is that you have raised girls, you work with girls. I've raised a son, and I work with a lot of moms of boys. And we've talked a lot about, I think this is powerful moving into future generations.
Mhm.
How can we, as parents, as adults, raise girls who lift up boys and raise boys who lift up girls? Do you have anything to share about that? It's a topic that fascinates me. We have to do our work with empowering our girls. Certainly, there's so much with boys, teaching them that it's okay to cry, to have tears, to be vulnerable, to be sensitive. I alluded to some of that, and doing each of the work individually is so important and crucial. And then how do you see it powerfully coming together if
Yeah,
you
I
do?
Yeah, I think that it's important, like as we raise our children, like to call out stereotypes, to show our children examples of girls and boys doing various things, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. And at the end of it, this is humanity. Like we are raising humans. And I feel like kindness and respect and self-love are at the cornerstone of all of it. So if we are moving forward on our mothering journey, on our parenting journey, keeping all of this in mind, like we are going to raise girls who raise up boys, and we're going to raise up boys who raise up girls, right? Because if there's kindness at the, at the root of all of it, then how could that not be the case? I feel like you and I did like a whole talk on this a little while ago, and there's so much to say about it. But like, I'd love for your people to hear what you shared and what you feel about that.
Well, I do believe, being a woman and having been raised as that good girl, nice girl, polite girl, don't make waves, don't make conflict, and then raising a son and becoming aware of all those stereotypes. Don't cry, don't be a wimp, man up. Oh,
Boys will be boys,
boys
excusing
will be
boys for
boys,
the things they do by just saying boys will be
will be
boys.
boys, and boys telling other boys, "Oh, you're such a girl."
Yes.
That
Oh
and
my
oh,
God.
you're such a girl. And then what is that saying about then the girls, right?
Yes.
So it's degrading both genders, and just sensitivity, vulnerability. So those were always very important to me in raising a son who would stay very connected to his soul, his heart, his sensitivities, his creativity, his innermost spirit,
Mhm.
and I think that what you're speaking to is so undervalued in our culture is kindness, and how to be kind without always being quote nice. How to be kind doesn't mean you have to be the nice quiet girl that doesn't really speak up. How to be kind without, and so I do believe that at the end of the day, when a girl feels empowered within herself to have a voice, to be fully self expressed, to feel like she can raise her hand as equally as anyone. She can take up her space in the world. And then simultaneously, so you're speaking about quote masculine qualities, healthy masculine, to because we're all feminine and masculine within ourselves. So to take up space, to be out there, to be self-expressed, right? To take up your space, to shine. And then for a boy to be able to embody the more feminine places inside of him, not feminine meaning gender, feminine meaning being.
Mhm,
Your
mhm.
being, that you don't have to do anything
Right.
to be worthy. And
Yes.
your tears are as important, and your tears matter, and your feelings matter to me, and how you feel is important to me. So I love your word kindness, and I hear words like connection and
Mm,
intimacy. To think that our girls would be inwardly connected to their power, and to
mm.
think that our boys would be inwardly connected to their sensitivity.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and that will create intimacy. I feel so intimately connected to you, Melody. Why? Because I feel there's such an implied safety between us. There's no competition between us. I am so here to raise you up, you're so here to raise me up. So this quality of safety is we've never talked about it overtly, but it's here, it's present. And to have that safety within a girl to be all of herself, and to have the safety within a boy to be all of himself
Mm.
and not to leave any of their parts out, I believe will be the coming together of the two, the creation of the intimacy and the connection and the understanding.
Yes, that's so beautifully said. That's so beautifully said. Yes, claiming all the parts of us, accepting all the parts of us, not being ashamed of any of the parts of us. Everything you said, amen to it, because that is the world that we want to move in the direction of. And we get
Yeah.
to be a part of that. We get to create it. We get to decide that it gets to be different.
Yeah, it makes me so excited talking to you. I always get the same feeling talking to you, of this excitement of what's possible. And I'm really hoping that everyone listening is feeling that inner sense, whether you are parenting a boy, whether you're parenting a girl, whether you're not a biological parent and you are remothering, as I call it, remothering yourself. I
Yes.
hope that you're feeling this possibility, this aliveness, this enthusiasm, this possibility of, oh my gosh, I can break out and break through from any ways that I've dimmed my own light, break out and break through from any ways that I've been taught not to create conflict with someone just by speaking up, any ways that perhaps you have been taught, don't be vulnerable, don't show your feelings, don't let them show. There's so many ways that we are here to remother ourselves. And then, as you're saying, as we embody that, really be able to pass that on to our kids. So I love everything that you're talking about. And I'm wondering, do you have any last words, anything that you would like to make sure that people are hearing, that they could take away with them, that they could use in their day-to-day weekly life?
I think, Susie, like to wrap what you just set up, said so beautifully in a bow. Um, all anyone wants from us is for us to be our authentic truth, to live out our authentic truth, to be real, to keep it real. So boy, girl, like it doesn't matter. At the end of this day, when we can show up, like there are no two people in the world who have the same fingerprint, not even twins, not even identical twins. We are all here for a reason. We're needed. Our voice matters. Our thoughts matter. So to not shy away from being who we are and sharing our authentic truth, because this is how we create connection. This is how we create power. This is how we create everything. This is how we change worlds. So I just wanted to say that because that's one of the biggest messages that we teach our girls in our curriculum. And it's like, you be you. That's all anyone wanted. But perfection aside, it doesn't exist. Show up,
Mm,
live full out,
mm,
share your voice, be
mm.
you.
You be you. You do you. That's
What greater gift is there, right? Than
exactly.
to give our truth.
Exactly. And this idea of embracing all parts of ourselves as the adults. When I embrace all parts of myself, I'm going to be more able to embrace all parts of my child. And to your point, you're saying, what do all of us want? We all want to feel seen. We all want to feel connected. We all want to feel that we matter, and giving ourselves the embrace of all the parts of ourselves is going to allow us to see our children and see all those parts and say, you matter. I see you. I value you. I treasure you. I adore you. And I adore these parts of you. And I adore these parts of you. And please step into these parts of you. And, this is amazing. I hope that everyone is leaving with just, a toolbox full of things to try this week and experiment. And I will absolutely have you on again. I know that there's so much more that we can talk about and so many questions maybe people will have. So please write to podcast@suzilula.com. If you have any questions for Melody, where can people find you, Melody? Where can they ask you questions directly? How can they get into your community?
For sure. So I'm at melody@getgirlpower.com. You can send me direct email there. I hang out on Instagram at Girl Life Empowerment. That's with one L. And of course, my website is an amazing place to learn more about our mission and who we serve and how we serve. And that's www.getgirlpower.com.
And I will have everything listed in the show notes. So you guys, you're just a click away. And we will certainly have you back. And thank you so much. You are one of the most inspiring women that I know. I love you. I respect you. I adore you. And I'm so grateful that you're my friend and colleague.
My goodness, the feeling is mutual. I'm so honored. I love you, Suzi. Thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure. And thank you guys. Thank you, all you thrivers. Give yourself permission to thrive this week.
Yes.
Love everyone. I hope you are leaving with the awareness of the profound influence you have to assist our next generation of girls and boys to thrive in their lives. And if there was something you found meaningful or helpful in this episode, I hope that you will subscribe and write a 5-star review. And as a thank you, I will email you a free video that I created for you called Permission to Thrive, with some practices and a guided process to assist you to shine in every area of your life. Just email podcast@suzilula.com with the word done when you subscribe and leave a review. Subscribing and writing a review assists us to reach more people and spread the message of thriving to more people on our beautiful planet. Thank you so much for listening. If there was something in this conversation that spoke to you, we'd so appreciate it if you would take the time to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share this episode with women and mothers you know, because you are here to thrive. See you next time.